Hello everyone, my name is Łukasz Malinowski, the Internet of Things advisor and trainer. And primarily, I focus on the end-to-end solution design using the edge devices, gateways, and cloud solution. But today, we are going to cover a bit different aspect of the IoT ecosystem, which is the introduction of hardware IoT products to the market. And luckily, we've got an expert with us who will tell us a bit more about this area. So, hello, Wojtek. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hello, Łukasz. Thank you for the invitation and introduction. My name is Wojciech Uzdrzychowski. My full-time position is EMC Design Engineer. It stands for Electromagnetic Compatibility Engineer. But beside that, I have a small business where I help IoT companies to attain CE mark. And we are going to talk about the second part of my activities.
Yeah. Exactly. So, if you could elaborate a bit on that. So, what is the role of the CE mark? What that CE mark even is, and why it is important for IoT manufacturers and distributors in US?
Mm-hmm. When you buy product, not necessarily IoT, you want them to operate as designed. Yeah. For example, if you buy a phone, you would like to just call and message and probably use internet, and you won't be happy if this function is not provided to you, right? So you would like to have some guarantee that this design is tested and operate as intended. There are many aspects of that. For example, if the device is safe, right? If you are using something that can produce temperature, if you are not will be burned by that. If the device cannot be disturbed by any radio signals and also do not emit unwanted radio signals. The way how you approach that is that they want manufacturers to assess their products. There is no gatekeeper that keeps the or checking the device if it's fulfilled. Assumption is that you as a manufacturer know the design the best, and also you know how to test it and what are the functions. So it's important to have this mark because it's information for the customers that your design is tested and behaves as designed.
Okay. So, by the way, if anyone from audience got a question for our expert, just please use chat for that, and we will do our best to answer your questions. And going back to Wojciech, so what exactly do you do? So, how do you help manufacturers to obtain that CE mark? Like, what the process looks like?
Yes, sure. So process the best. That process starts very early on the design. Probably even when you don't have the first prototype on your hand, and process start before that. You need to assess what is the function of design, what is the intended environment for that device. For example, you can use it in a household environment, in automotive, in aerospace. So this is the first part. The next part, you must, based on the environment, you will know which standard you need to fulfill, which EU directives. For example, there is directive for consumer electronics, for EMC and radio devices. Based on that, you need to understand to which exact standard your device is subjected. For example, which exact EMC standard. There are general standards for general devices and also product specific. For example, washing machine. It's so common that there is specific standard to washing machines. But in most cases, your device is unique or combines several functions. So you need to combine also these standards which you need to fulfill.
Okay, so if we've got a manufacturer that is working on some IoT hardware prototype, then they will have to know which standards they need to comply, or they need to ask an expert like you to guide them through this process, right?
Right. Okay,
And,
and
mhm.
okay, and process is just started. When you have the design, the prototype in hand, the best is to conduct so-called pre-compliance. Pre-compliance stands for basically everything what you can do without external laboratory on any special equipment. It gives the information about the behavior and performance of the design. Then starts the official way, let's say. You need to find certified accredited laboratory which can conduct a test which you would like to have according to prepared test plan. So how to test, what to do, and so on. Uh, Hopefully, you need to go to this laboratory only once, but practice shows that you need to go several times to this laboratory to fulfill all the standards. Once you have it, and you have official report from the laboratory, you can start the process of introducing your product to the market. You also need to collect documentation and prepare some assessments. And later on, you need to prepare the stickers, label, and manual for the product.
Okay, and what are the consequences of not carrying out this process if manufacturer forgets about it, or basically will not fulfill it according to the requirements? So what are the consequences of that?
Mhm. Even though there is no gatekeeper that holds you to not to put this device into the market, in every country there is surveillance authority. It means that they run the random testing, so that they can buy whatever it is on the market and put to their lab and check whether it's compliant with declared standards. If not, or worst case, and most of the time, these authorities work on the basis on reports. So if something is not working, for example, one of the example is that radio communication which firefighters use was disturbed. So in this case, firefighters report that there is this authority came to this location and scan the area what's causing the problem. And it can end that you must remove your products from the market, or remove or replace the products with working ones. So in worst case, you have to remove all the products from the market.
Okay, so those are pretty severe consequences, but as you pointed in the example, like we don't want emergency operators to be impacted by some malfunctioning device. So probably in order to comply with all of those regulations, you need to include those aspects during the project design and during the hardware design. So can you give us some hints how to prepare the hardware design in order to meet those regulations later on?
Mm-hmm. First, you need to understand the standards, and it can take time. If you are doing this rarely, you will probably consume a lot of time. So to go through the standards and understand what they mean. Mm, in big companies, there is dedicated person who can do that. But in small companies, or if you release the product rarely, once a year, once every 2 years, probably you don't have this person, and you have to someone have to do this who basically don't have experience in that. Mm, and the best way is to have experience, of course, in that and understand what causes the problems. Uh, Another way is to produce prototypes early, consult with someone who knows how to test it and what will be the scope. Go to the laboratory. It doesn't have to be official laboratory. Test it and see how you can improve. Then improve, go to the laboratory once again, and hopefully this time it will work. Most of the time it ends up like you need to go as a manufacturer several times to this laboratory to pass tests.
Okay, so it looks like very iterative process, right?
Right.
You've got a solid design, but if we are working on some hardware prototypes, then often it's very hard actually to predict all the behaviors, right, of that specific piece of equipment. So probably due to that fact, you need to go to that lab a few times just to be sure that you covered everything.
Right.
And just out of curiosity, how often those regulations change? Like, because you said that big company got someone employed all the time. So does it mean that those regulations are keep changing, and you need to invest some time just to be up to date with most recent requirements?
Yes, of course, it depends. The big directives which keep the, let's say, umbrella of the tests, uh, don't change that often, and luckily they have long introduction time. So, for example, last year there was new EU directive about the universal USB Type C chargers, but it will not be in it will not be active till the end of next year. So there is a lot of time to prepare. And answering your question, in the middle of this year, I started cooperation with one company. We selected the standards, and after a few months, I checked again, and there was new revision. So we need to revise what's changed and introduce new items to the product.
And does it impact also the existing products? So let's say the regulation changed after you released your product to the market, right? So does it mean that you need to replace that product, or doesn't work like this?
No, it doesn't work like this. There is interesting writing in the standards. First, they don't want to over test. So once the product is on the market, you should be fine. If you introduce new product to the market, you should you should update according to the standards.
Okay, luckily we don't have to follow like the process all the time in terms of like once you meet the regulations on the gate, right, and deploy your product, then changes in regulations doesn't harm you, which makes sense, right? Because laws should not work in other way. Um, could you describe the compliance verification like in more details, maybe on some concrete example?
Of course. So but would you like to ask about the exact testing or the process?
Like the process end to end, and if you could dive a bit deeper into testing itself, because it sounds like very interesting topic to cover.
Okay. Yeah. So important thing is that you need to start early, because as you observe, it is iterative process and can take time. Mm, so most of the time, and this is economically wise to test it with equipment which you have on your internal laboratory. So oscilloscope, spectrum analyzers, anything you have and you can use. So this is something that I highly recommend to do as early as possible to gain the knowledge about the performance. Mm, maybe briefly about the testing inside the laboratory. Mm, I will explain the uh, electromagnetic compatibility and the test of radiated emission. So every device, every electronic device which has power and any function in modern days, for example, cell phone, can produce electromagnetic energy, both wanted and unwanted. Wanted is the radio signal which communicates with base station. Unwanted is, yeah, it's self-explanatory. Yeah, any unwanted signal that comes in the other bands and with different power. So to test that, you place the cell phone or any device to the Faraday cage. It's anechoic chamber. You put measurement antenna 3 meters from the device in this example and measure the entire spectrum. For example, from 30 megahertz up to 1 gigahertz or even higher up to 6 gigahertz, and compare the results with the limits. Most of the time, maybe not most of the time, some cases of the problems are switch mode power supplies, which can be problematic. So in this case, probably you will need to improve layout or schematic design in that case.
Okay, we've got a question from Victor. Could you give us the estimated cost range of the process to get that approval to offer hardware devices on the EU market?
Simply saying no, I cannot, because it depends of the product, of the laboratory which you need to go, on the standards which you need to fulfill. If you can use declaration of conformity from submodules, because in some cases you can use that and you don't need to repeat certain tests. So really it depends, right? Whether it's consumer electronics, automotive, medical. So really I cannot answer this question simply.
Okay. You mentioned something very interesting, that if you build your product from, let's say, smaller components, and if those components are already approved, like you do not have to double check those specific pieces of the hardware, right? Could you elaborate a bit more on this part?
Right. On the example of hazardous substance, ROHS, if you place any components on your device, whether it's mechanical enclosure, PCB components, manufacturers of these components provide declaration of conformity. So it means you can use it and you don't have to measure every component for the presence of hazardous substances. Other example is problematic, but you can use it sometimes. Radio devices, radio submodules, they have their own declaration of conformity, but there are some requirements for you as a designer, and you must fulfill the requirements of the product of the submodule manufacturer that you need to follow. So it doesn't mean you can simply use it, put it into your device, and you are clear. You need to follow their requirements, and in most of the cases, the safest way is also to measure it.
Okay, so yeah, so it's probably it's always to be on the safe side, like to double check if we are compliant, right, with the regulation.
Yes, one comment: if you use radio modules and you want to measure them, you don't have to go to a certified lab. It can be lab without certification or accreditation, or you can go to accredited lab and ask for engineering evaluation. It means that you measure on a hourly rate basis, and you don't pay the entire sum for the entire scope of the testing.
And based on your experience, could you give us the time range that is typical for getting that verification? Because you said that it is very use case specific, but just for us to understand, if you are speaking about, let's say, weeks or months of verification, so how long does this process takes typically?
Verification or entire process of assessment?
Yeah. So the entire process. So basically, from the start to the finish, how much time should the enterprise allocate to meet those regulations?
The minimum I would say is several months, and it can take longer. Of course, it depends. If you are just starting, you can prepare in a good way and start cooperation with laboratory, for example. So roughly speaking, it can take around half a year, sometimes more, sometimes less. So it depends on the case, right? Whether you are just starting or you are ready, prototypes, yeah, also depends.
Okay, but so like still it sounds like pretty long time, right? So this is something that we need to plan before the release date to the market, right? So
Right.
if we want to hit some specific date, probably this whole process should be included at the very beginning of the
Right.
whole timeline.
Mhm. Assuming that you will pass for the first time, which is rarely the case.
Yeah, but that's why companies can hire some external expert to increase chances, right, of solving any issues and succeeding as quickly as possible. So, are there any hints and suggestions you would like to share with the audience uh, around this huge topic, like to summarize and to show the most important aspects that people that consider introducing hardware to the EU market should be really careful focus on?
Uh, so the advice can be that, yeah, you should start early with the process. If you don't have experience, of course, you can do it by yourself, but it can take time. What you can do if you don't want to hire an expert or dedicated employee for that, some laboratories can give you advice how to proceed. They can support. Mm, They shouldn't do that by on the formal process. They can assist you on limited basis. Mm, Start early, contact with laboratory, prepare. Yeah, also important thing that you need to prepare the design and the software for the testing. Um, Very shortly, you need to, during testing, you need to be sure that your device operates as intended and keep the functions. For that, you need to somehow monitor the function. If you place the device inside the Faraday cage, you will not receive any radio signals. You need to connect via wires. So for that, you need to prepare debug and somehow place it outside the chamber. It depends on the laboratory. Usually they have optocouplers to test that, but on the software side you need to prepare debug information. What can be the example? Very simple device which measures the temperature and activates any load. So function of your device is measure temperature and activate, let's say, heater, right? To be sure that your device is working, you need to be able to read out the temperature from the device and somehow check if the load is activated. Yeah, so for that you need to prepare some kind of monitoring, whether it should be temperature sensor or an current meter, and provide this information outside the chamber.
Okay, I think that is very good hint that you need to focus not only on your product itself, but also you need to provide the means to measure that product during the compliance test, right? So as you said, that needs to be some specific software or hardware that you need to use during the process, not the product itself.
Yes, and moreover, sometimes you're gonna need to build some additional equipment because if you design some system, um, if you have the previous example was very simple, but if you have some complicated device which um, can control other devices, most probably you need to these other devices too inside the chamber.
Yeah, so then we are going to more the Internet of Things ecosystem, which is extremely interesting topic. So let's leave it for another meeting. Okay, Wojtek. What is the best way that people can reach out to you if they would like to know more about the things you can advise them on?
If you have direct question, you can reach me via email. So we can contact. There was some question about pricing. So if you can provide me the more details, I can help you with that. You can follow me on LinkedIn. So I post some valuable articles on that. So you can follow me there or just send a friend request. And soon I will have web page. So follow my LinkedIn and you will know what is the address of the web page.
Cool. Thank you very much, Wojciech, for joining us today and for sharing your experience. Because this is mandatory to be compliant with all of those regulations in order to introduce the products to the market. And in the Internet of Things, that think part, so this product part, is crucial to build the whole ecosystem. And you are basically enabling building that from the very beginning, which is a huge gain for the IoT community. So I do not see any questions. If any one of you have got further questions, please reach out to Wojciech directly. And that's all for today. Thank you very much, Wojciech, for today's meeting, and we will stay in touch for the future.
Thank you, Łukasz.